We are living through some pretty turbulent times at the moment.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before, that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
Nobody really knows what's going on. Sure, we get politicians telling us what's going on. We get news headlines telling us what's going on. There are people that are in these countries where these conflicts are happening that tell us what's going on. But it all feels very uncertain. Nobody really knows what's round the corner. A lot of people are afraid right now of a major global conflict. Because relatively speaking, the world is quite peaceful at the moment. I don't want to downplay the wars that are going on, but I want to remind you that in World War II, over 70 million people died, right? Like, sure, there's wars, there's fighting, there's conflict. But I'm not here to talk to you and give you history lessons and comment on what's going on with geopolitics at the moment. What I want to do is I want to bring this back to alcohol. Because if you are drinking alcohol right now and you've got concern over what's going on in the world, that's okay. But I want to give you a different perspective. One that will actually help you with your drinking problem. See, the goal of this channel is never to get political and it's to never get religious. I don't want to divide people. And whilst these things, they are important, we all have a common enemy, and it's alcohol. So you'll never hear me get charged up on any opinion of politics or religion, but at the same time we can't ignore what's going on. Now, very quickly, if we've not met yet, my name is Leon Sylvester. I'm the founder of SoberClear, which is a coaching company that helps business owners and professionals stop drinking. We use a totally new method that's scientifically validated, and if you want to learn more about it, you can go ahead and click the link down below to access a free video training that will show you how to control your drinking using this new method. It works in as little as 24 hours, and if you actually want to see if working together could be a good match, there'll be another link in the description that you can click. You'll be able to fill in an application, and then you'll be able to book a consultation, and we can see if the SoberClear program could be a good match for you. And if you're watching this on your TV, just go to soberclear.com. You can do it on your phone. But like I said, I want to give you a different perspective. And you might just think I'm some young, naive, guy in his mid-30s that's clueless, but I'm okay for you to judge me negatively on this opinion, but all I want to do is help you with the drinking. So here we go. So when I stopped drinking alcohol, it was 2018. After I stopped drinking alcohol, for the first year, life went so well. I'd restarted my personal training business. I was rebuilding self-confidence. I was getting back into peak shape. I met my now fiance that I'm about to marry. In fact, by the time this video comes out, there's a good chance that we might already be married. But life had been going in a really good direction. What I don't remember doing is in 2018 to 2019 was looking at any world events. And again, you might just think I'm naive, but just bear with me. But then 1 year later, what happened was I made a video about not drinking for a year, and the video did really well. It got really good feedback. It got thousands of views, hundreds of upvotes on Reddit, loads of people were commenting, and I just shared my experience of not drinking for a year. And this video really just launched me into a totally different career path, which was helping people stop drinking. At the time, I had no idea. Long story short, I made a couple more videos. Then I started actually talking to people, trying to help them with the problem. Lo and behold, my company was formed. And that's when I created the SoberClear system, scientifically validated approach to help people control their drinking in as little as 24 hours. Not for everybody, but it happens. But we have this new approach that gets a 96% success rate. You'll see where I'm going with this. So we're in about 2019 now. So I hadn't drank for a year, and I'd really just kind of stayed focused, right? I just stayed in my corner. I really just focused on becoming the person I wanted to be. I was working really hard. I was in a new relationship now with my fiance. I'm back in the gym. Just things were going in such a good direction. And then we all know what happened in 2019. Boom, out of nowhere, the virus. I'm not going to say it because I don't know what happens if you mention that word. I don't know if YouTube end up putting this out to less people. I'm not going to give you a history lesson on 2019. We all know what happened. Everybody can remember it. And I remember once it started, the lockdown started, all these headlines were coming out of nowhere. I got sucked into the news so bad. I would look at the news every single day. And up until this point, I just ignored the news. Again, you might say I'm naive, but whatever, right? I was building my life. I'd stopped drinking. I didn't really care what was going on outside of my control. I just brought it back to what I could do. But in 2019, everything shifted. And I realized something so impactful, but I could feel the emotions of fear that would come up after I'd look at these headlines. I'd be scared. Like we all were. We were being sold fear 24/7. Why? Because that's what media companies do. They want to sell fear. They want to put fear in your heart. So you click. Because guess what happens? You read the article, advertisers will put their things on these publications and they'll make money. So there's an incentive to sell you fear. And I could feel this. I felt the fear, but I didn't know what to believe. I think a lot of us felt that way. It was like everybody was kind of split, and I felt like I was in the middle. But then it almost became political as well. It was almost like in America, the Democrats were all like pro-vaccine and then the Republicans were all now anti-vaccine, and it just became this mess. And I got to a place where I thought, do you know what? I'm not looking at it anymore. And I came to a conclusion that I'm just going to ban myself from watching the news. I'm just not going to look because I would refresh it throughout the day, multiple times a day to see what's happening. And trust me, this is all going to be relevant to alcohol. And you might just think this is just a dumb take, but I don't care. It helped me with my journey not drinking, which is why I want to share it with you. But I made a decision that instead of looking at these headlines, I realized in the past, I didn't used to watch the news. And I kind of realized that whatever is really important is you're just going to hear about it in your day-to-day life. You might see a friend make a post on Facebook. I didn't need to watch this mainstream media, so I just stopped myself from watching it. And all of a sudden, the stress, the fear was gone. And that's when I really just doubled down on helping people with alcohol, and I built my business from the ground up. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this picture before, but it's this picture of your locus of control. In life, we have got so many things that are outside of our control. We cannot control these global conflicts. Maybe you can contribute in some way if you want to go and fight, if you want to go and protest, if you're really that way inclined. Fair enough, but we really don't have that much control over it. So if you look at this picture of your locus of control, we don't have control over things like how our friends will react to us, how our family will behave. We don't have control over so many things. In fact, most of life we have no control over, but we do have control over our individual actions. And what I've found that's happened to me over the past week or two is I just got sucked back into current events. And it's been something that I've really just tried to keep away from for years now. And that thing that I was talking about of how important news people will often tell me, it really was true. But I was just kind of naive to what was going on in the world, and I just focused on my YouTube channel, on helping you viewers that watch this video, with helping my clients in my Stop Drinking program, because those things were what I had control over. And listen, I'm sure some of you are going to argue and say, no, it's really important. You need to know what's going on in the world. And I'm not saying that this is binary, right? There's no right and wrong. I'm just saying what worked for me. But as I can feel myself getting pulled back into these current events and all these wars and all this fighting, I've had to distance myself and I've had to say, do you know what? What's in my control? Well, making a YouTube video is in my control. I can't control how many people watch a video, but I can control what I do with my day. I can control the inputs, right? I can control the media that I choose to consume. And whilst this YouTube channel is about not drinking alcohol, and we see all of these conflicts going on, the last thing I want you to do is look at these current events, feel fear, feel some kind of negative emotion because of all of these headlines, and then want to deal with this pain by consuming alcohol. Again, look back to that picture. Locus of control. What is in your control right now? Because the same way that we can choose what we consume in terms of media, books, etc., is the same with alcohol. We can control what information we consume about alcohol. We can control whether or not we consume alcohol. Because whilst all these conflicts and wars are going on, there is still the same war that we're all fighting together. And that's the war against alcohol. And like I said before, wars are fought through battles. And I want to say this again. Your battle with alcohol is part of a bigger war. If you win this battle, it spreads. And if you actually think about a war, that's what happens, right? A battle gets won, and then it spreads. And then along the lines, everybody hears about this battle that's won, camaraderie improves, and people keep fighting. That's how you need to see your fight with alcohol. You've got to see it as a battle that will contribute to everybody around you. If you beat this battle, if you win this fight, who else notices? Your friends, your family, your wife, your husband, your children. They start looking at you going, how did you do it? What's changed? You look different. You look healthier. You're nicer to be around. And then you tell them, I don't drink anymore. I stopped drinking. See, the battle with alcohol that you are fighting is so important. You need to remember that your decision to not drink alcohol has got a lot to do with you and your life, but you need to see how that will impact your society, your community, and all the people around you. That is a battle and that is a war that is 100% in your control. So I'm not saying that you should be totally uninformed, but I want to remind you, you've got no control over these things. And if you drink alcohol, there is a much more important war that is on your doorstep right now that will impact you and will impact your family. Relatively speaking, we do live in peaceful times. And I'm not trying to downplay these conflicts that are happening in other parts of the world. 70 million people died in World War II, which is just, you can't even imagine it. That many people died in that war. And relatively speaking, times are peaceful. And that's as a British citizen. I'm sure if I lived in another country right now, I would not be feeling that way. But I'm just talking on a global level right now. You know, it's not like we're in some major conflict. It can feel like we're on the verge of it, but it's not here. But the war on alcohol and the battle that you're fighting is on your doorstep right now. So just don't forget this.